All right, my name is Seth Green. I'm going to be showing you how to trim a bowl today. One of the things I want to show you before I get started is the profile of a bowl that's been cut in half. And when you're throwing a bowl, you intentionally leave some extra clay in this area here, as well as here and here. Notice where I have the X's on here. That's where I'm going to be removing some clay. And I'll show you an example on a finished bowl here. This is the interior of the clay. This part right here is called the foot. We're going to be removing this shoulder area to reveal this curve. We want the same curve that's on the inside also on the outside of the bowl. Okay? So that's what I'm going to teach you how to do right now. Okay, so I've got a bowl that's leather hard, meaning I can pick it up and it's not going to distort in my hands. Okay? I'm going to turn it over on my wheel. I'm going to use the lines, the concentric lines on my wheel to try to line this bowl up in the most center spot as possible. And then I'm going to put my thumb and my fingers on the clay like this and center the clay. Another way to center clay is by putting your hand on the wheel like this and resting your finger on the clay. And if it pushes your hand away, push the clay away. That'll help you get that centered on the wheel. Okay? All right. Now I'm going to clay the bowl down. I'm not going to use a whole lot of clay because I don't want my tool to get in the way. So I'm just going to make some small little coils like this. I'm going to press down. This is just so that the wheel, the bowl doesn't fly off the wheel as I'm trimming. I'll put it in all opposite sides in 4 places. Okay, so in general, the general rule of thumb is a foot should be about the radius of the diameter of the bowl. So I'm just checking that right now. I'm putting my thumb in the center, my right hand, my finger on the rim of the bowl, and I'm just kind of checking about how wide I need to be. Looks like I'm about there. I'm just going to take a little bit off. So the first step, again, it's when you're trimming, it's like throwing. You want to have your arms tucked into your body, your hands connected, putting my left hand resting on top of the clay. And then what I'm doing is I'm defining the width of the foot ring right now. I'm removing a little bit of that clay. And again, I'm kind of basing that on that rule of thumb of the radius of the diameter. Now I have all this clay that I need to remove to reveal that curve, which is the same curve on the inside of the bowl. And when you trim, you got to trim pretty fast. If you trim really slow, it's hard to get a nice, even and consistent trim. So the wheel's got to go pretty fast. I'm just bringing my pear-shaped tool from the bottom here up into that foot ring. And I'll turn my tool over and trim down just a little bit. So it's really important to have a leather hard piece of clay. Otherwise you will misshape in the bowl, and chances are you may trim through the bottom of the bowl. Okay? Now that we have the foot ring established, we're going to go ahead and establish the width of the foot ring, the interior part. And I'm using my squared off trimming tool, my ribbon tool. And I'm starting with the corner of the tool, and I'm going down as far as I want it to go down. And how to gauge that is, well, number one, you want to take note of how thick your clay is on the bottom before you turn it over. And number two, if this foot ring was gone, this curve here will continue up into the curve of your foot. So that's something to be thinking about when you're making a bowl. So I'm going to remove this clay from the center. Again, I have my hands connected. I'm moving towards 3 o'clock. Want to be able to glaze the interior of this foot. So what I do is I put a flat stick or something to make sure I have some daylight between this part and where the foot's going to rest on the kiln shelf, because I don't want my glaze to stick to the kiln shelf. So I got to make sure there's plenty of daylight. It looks like I'm good to go there. So then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to finish refining this foot. In general, your foot ring needs to be about as thick as the rim of your bowl. So I'm going to thin this this foot ring down just a little bit to kind of help it match the thickness of the rim of the bowl. I like to do a little bit of an undercut right here. It creates a nice shadow, but also it's a really great place for some glaze to pool down there in the bottom. And then the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to round this foot off. And functional pottery, it's important for details to be considered, such as the foot. For example, someone that's going to purchase a bowl, they don't want to have a scratchy bowl on the bottom. So one of the things that you do to eliminate that is get your foot ring a little bit wet, and then just use your finger and press all those kind of rough particles back down into the clay, under the clay surface there. And there are a little bit of pit marks from the grog being pulled out of the clay during the trimming process. So I'm going to clean that up just a little bit. I'm going to use my sponge and then take my stiff rib here and I'm going to smooth that out. One of the reasons I do that is because sometimes when a glaze is put over the surface of an unsmooth clay surface, the glaze tends to pit or not totally heal over those little pock marks. And so this is one reason I really try to get all of those groggy, rough patches pushed back down into the clay, and I'll do that here on the foot as well. Let's finish that off here. I'm going to put a line down here at the bottom to define that rim a little bit. And that is how you trim a bowl. Sure, I'll pull this off. So tell me when you want me to start. So to make sure you have enough clay removed from your bowl, I'm just removing these little clay coils here with my metal rib, the back side of my metal rib. I'm able to slide that underneath without jamming into the rim of my bowl. Is I'm going to take this off and I'm going to look at the profile of the bowl. Looks like I've got enough clay. That curve is consistent from the top to the bottom of the foot, and it matches what's going on the interior. And one really important thing to do when after you're finished trimming your bowl, you want to dry the bowl upside down on the rim. Because the clay is thinner down at the rim, up at the rim, it's going to dry quicker than down here at the foot. And so in order to prevent warping from happening, you need to dry your bowl upside down like this. And then we'll load it into the bisque kiln when it's dry. Anyway, good luck making your bowls.